Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 798. I'm Tom Cagley, your host. Today, our interview with Steve Taplin of Sonatafy Technology. Steve and I discussed the nuances and benefits of nearshore software development. Steve also provided his thoughts on why building an uplifting culture, both inside and outside the organization, reaps powerful rewards for everyone it touches. Steve Taplin leads Sonatafy Technology as its CEO, bringing an entrepreneurial flair and inspirational leadership to the forefront of nearshore software development. His career is marked by a series of successful business scalings, showcasing his ability to tackle complex challenges within the tech industry. Steve's expertise spans across critical business domains, driving Sonatafy to excel in delivering top-tier software solutions. Are you ready to talk nearshore software development and organizational culture? It's time for the interview. Steve Taplin, welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast.
Glad to be here, Tom. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. I've been around this for a little while in this industry, and the idea, the word outsourcing, nearsourcing, crowdsourcing, farm sourcing, I think was one that we did for a while. Those words or those phrases tend to strike different feelings in different people's minds. So let's start really sort of basically. Outsourcing, when does it make sense?
Well, so I'm going to talk about it from my company's vantage point, as all we do is custom software development. And that is the niche my company has. And unlike 20 years ago, where only IT companies were building software, you have this situation now where you have companies across all industries, all verticals, that realize that custom software development, creating their own end user experience, customizing the journey of their clients, their prospects, their employees, is one of the key ways to stand out in crowded markets. We certainly see a lot of disruption going on with companies like in the healthcare and life sciences space that are changing the dynamics and processes of how things have worked. And so when you have now much more than just IT companies doing software development, you have it across many, many companies. Oftentimes, it makes sense to only have a few experts in-house and then utilize the services or outsource to another company from that realm.
In that circumstance where you've taken a piece of work, a new product, some custom software development and pushed it to another organization, doesn't that sort of dilute organization's IP?
So not if you're working together the right way. And so one of the black clouds over outsourcing has often been that you are doing this off to another country on a different time zone where most of the people don't speak English. And you have this big disconnect between the organizations. My company and our niche is what we'll refer to as nearshoring, which is specific to US-based companies. And I have 140 full-time software engineers that are out of Latin America, that are all mid and senior level engineers. They're fully bilingual. They're natively on US time zones, but also work US time zones. And so part of that, and this is specific to custom software development, not all of outsourcing, but this allows it to be a constant collaborative process between the company and my team at Sonatafy Technology. And that constant collaboration, that ability to communicate with all team members, the fact that we're all operating in the same time zones, that's how you get around those issues of throwing a project over the fence and not knowing what came back.
When you suggest that, it all in the same time zone, and we can carve up and look down South America to North America, it's at least close in many circumstances. albeit when we go on daylight savings time is exactly opposite, and that's always fun. Is it just when we talk about nearshore versus outsourcing, is it really just, okay, it's closer, or are there different attributes that make nearshoring versus offshoring different?
So, from the realm of outsourcing, my comment would be that in the when you're doing custom software development, there's no one solution that fits every company. We have some clients that have teams of 20, 30, 40 internal software engineers that their teams can't keep up with all the work. And they utilize our services to expand additional teams to work hand in hand with their team. We have other situations where the in-house teams don't have the expertise in newer technologies to be able to do it. And our team is leading the development, working hand in hand with their team. There's other situations where they have no IT or software resources in-house and we're doing everything. So there's a lot of different situations there. But regardless, and once again, because software development can be so complex, if you don't have instant access to all of the key stakeholders and you can't go on Slack and get instant responses, you lose days at a time if you have to wait that 8-hour turn so you can have 1 or 2 hours of overlap.
Once upon a time, there was this idea that you could create a development organization that would follow the sun. So the work would just move across the globe seamlessly. I'm not sure I ever saw that work. Why wouldn't that be a better idea than just staying all within one set of 3 or 4 time zones?
So, and we're both aging ourselves here, Tom, with the follow the sun model. But when that started with outsourcing, that was really good for things like security monitoring or monitoring infrastructures or even help desk and customer service support, because you could have constant 24/7 support. They started that in the 90s and early 2000s with software development. And in my humble opinion, the breakdown occurred on the ability to follow the sun as it relates to custom software development around 2015. And what we saw was the emergence of using cloud environments. We've seen how it gets more and more complex and the different turns you can take. You have mobile environments. And to me, 2015 was a big turning point in the custom software development world, that you can't just hand it off to another team to work at night and then have a team in the US pick it up in the morning. I haven't seen that work for a long time. But to me, the turning point where it was the nail in the coffin was as the cloud environments matured around 2015.
The reason I brought that up is less to date myself. I think it's pretty
I put us both in the same category, Tom.
Thank you. But, let's face it, people can go out to LinkedIn and find out, pretty easily. The interesting thing that I think our industry really, I think, points out is that there is a continuous level of fundamental change going on. How do you as an organization actually deal with the fact that the market, the platforms, the approaches, if you're basing it on 5 years ago, it ain't going to work now. So how do you stay up to date as an organization?
So, and great question. And no company can do everything. And let's just kind of start with that. Where my organization excels and where our focus is solely focused around modern cloud and mobile tech stacks. We do not work on legacy ERP systems or custom Salesforce development or different niches within that. And by using agile practices, by working on modern technologies and cloud and mobile environments, it's allowed us to constantly stay up to date for our niche. I can't imagine trying to do that for all aspects of software development.
Going back to, the three basic models that you proposed earlier, one of them was if an organization doesn't have the capabilities, doesn't know the new thing, you do. Where does that leave an organization? You're done with the work. It's time to go. You've delivered the custom software. Do you run it for them? Or at some point, do they actually have to learn it?
So it's a great question. And one comment I would make that I have seen for the past decade or so is most companies are not going into building software and think version one is going to be everything. Most of the companies we are working with are developing platforms that are going to run their business and understand that there's going to be a constant evolution. In the custom software world, you kind of joke you're never done because there's always more business needs that come in. What if it could do this and what it can do that? And so there's always phased approaches. So our typical model is not doing a project and being done with our clients, but being long-term partners with them. Some have us build the software as they're testing it in the market and they see traction. They may or may not start building their own teams from there and have us work in conjunction. Some don't want to have anything to do with the development side of the business and want a partner to focus on that. And so we see a lot of different scenarios there.
How are you defining the term development?
In my world, custom software development, and although we'll often connect to third-party applications through APIs and integrations, we're normally doing full stack development of from the ground up or expanding existing custom platforms.
So when a platform exists and it's reached some degree of relative maturity, is that development?
Well, if they plan on enhancing features on that existing platform, I would argue to say it's development. If they're just focusing on maintaining it and making sure it's running and fine-tuned, I would call that more of a maintenance mode of an application.
When applications that have been nearshored get to that maintenance level, who works with them?
So we have some clients. I hate to sound like an attorney here and say it depends. But we have some clients that want us to do the maintenance. We have some clients that do it in-house. The reality over the past 4 years, since 2020, I would say, is I haven't even run across an organization in our circle. And for the most part, our niche is focused on businesses from 50 to 5,000 employees, kind of a mid-market segment. And we haven't seen companies who are either expanding existing software platforms or building new ones go at it that it's a one and done type thing. It's it also depends on how disruptive is this platform, how much funding does the company have, what stage is the company in. We deal with a lot of companies that are from Series A to Series C rounds in what they're raising and how they're disrupting the market. And so we see situations all over the place.
Each one of those organizations, I mean, every organization is different, probably has different needs and different culture. But, someone that's in Series A versus a Series C, those can act very differently. How, as an organization, do you adapt your delivery approach to these different organizations?
Great question. And as much as we'd always like to say, you have to follow best practices, you have to do it one way. We all know that's not the real world. For various reasons, clients don't always want to listen. We're big proponents of agile processes, Tom, as you are with your company. But we see clients veer from that for many different reasons. And sometimes you have a new private equity firm that's coming in and they are not so interested in expansion versus cutting costs. We see all types of scenarios, and we always outline the risks to the client, make our recommendations, but adapt to what they need.
Let's say a client decided that they really didn't want to have someone playing that important stakeholder or the product owner kind of role. That they would put a technician in that role and make those decisions. How would you actually adapt to that? Because you have at that point, maybe no access to the business.
So we often, when we are working with companies who don't have an internal product owner, we actually set the expectations with them that we'll start that up front if you need it, but you really need somebody who's embedded in that business, who can truly be an advocate between the business and technical side. And for the most part, I always joke, you do it long enough, you figure out how to do it right. And we're very rarely working with unexperienced CTOs or CIOs or VPs of engineering who haven't been through the runner. And we see clients listen to that quite a bit, and we'll have to educate them. But I'm a firm believer that the product owner function, if you were to take a responsibilities matrix and look at who's playing what role, I always encourage the clients that we can start in that, but we need a transition plan for your success to make sure that product owner role is somebody internal. We'll do the project management. We'll do all the development. We'll take care of UI UX. But we've definitely seen it's best for the business when you truly have a product owner who understands building software and who has that fine balance between business and technical aptitude.
When that conversation goes right, what does it sound like?
I'm a very straightforward person. I actually have zero interest as the CEO of our company to get involved in any engagement that's set to fail. And so I'm gauging with the executives, they don't have to take all our recommendations, but if we see them during the engagement phases not understanding or agreeing with things that we think are critical to success, we may turn the engagement down. The last thing we want to do is go into an engagement that we know is going to fail. And sometimes companies out there are just looking for the cheapest solution and whoever will say yes to them. And I always try to educate those people. You realize you'll be coming back to me in 6 to 18 months saying, I wish I would have listened to you. But if you haven't been through that process, if you haven't made those mistakes, sometimes people don't want to listen. You got to have the wounds of building hundreds of different custom software products and having things go good and bad. I've never been involved in a software development project that you're not dealing with significant challenges all the time. And what really differentiates any company is how they work through those challenges.
How did you learn to say no?
How did I learn to say no? I, more than anything, in my entire life, integrity has been of the utmost importance. And it's as you're growing in your career, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're going down a corporate path, sometimes you could really get blinded by money and not saying no when you should have. And throughout my career, I have always held on to that value. And a few times I was kicking myself saying, my gosh, I just walked away from millions of dollars. Every time I have done that and I've been upset years later, I've learned how it was a big failure and how I made the right decision. And that is, a key part of being a good leader, the ability to work through challenges and know when you're going into a lose-lose situation.
One of the attributes that was mentioned that was one of the reasons why Nearshore works is cultural affinity. Could you say a little bit about what you mean by cultural affinity?
Absolutely. All of our engineers are fully bilingual. That is a key part. And undisputedly, the key to success is making sure the entire team can collaborate. When I say the entire team, that means the client, the key stakeholders, and all of the developers involved. I am not a fan of the approach of you have one or two team leads that are communicating everything to everybody else and things are done in a modular fashion. I've seen that be a lose-lose situation
That's
every
death.
time.
Yeah.
So the fact that from a cultural perspective in the US, there are a lot of similarities from a Latin America perspective, and the fact that we only hire fully bilingual individuals, it means we can all communicate. And where there are differences, what helps is we're a US based company. We have employees in the US as well as Latin America. And we're in the situations where there is a disconnect, we're used to what those are and how to be proactive and or how to address them when they happen.
When you're using the term Latin America, are we talking Central and South, including Brazil or not including Brazil?
So 80% of my engineers are throughout Mexico. Then we have Colombia. We do have a couple in Brazil and Argentina. We have Uruguay and Costa Rica. We focus on where we see throughout Latin America, you see like bunches of where there's good English speaking, where there's good universities that have computer science degrees. So you often see clusters of where there's good talent.
Wow. Wow. That is interesting. It's a big world, and, finding the right people in the right place. How do you actually find the right people in Argentina or Chile?
So that has been a key part of our craft of what we've done. And the way we manage that process, we actually created our own SaaS platform that we call Nexus. And our Nexus platform is our platform for how we evaluate engineers and determine if they're a good fit for our team. And I will joke once again that, anyone could say they're great at something. To me, being great is making every mistake in the book and putting processes in place to minimize that same mistake happening again. And that's actually the whole reason throughout my career, I have been such a huge advocate of building your own custom software as a means to operate your business more efficiently and force the business to follow processes that are following the good and bad lessons. So part of that is the software we have built, and we do code testing and English proficiency tests and technical interviews. We do cultural testing with them. We also have built out a community in Latin America where we educate people in Latin America how to maximize their income working for US companies. And as part of our Nexus software, we've created a Nexus network in Latin America that in 2002, we won a LinkedIn award for fastest growing private group in Latin America. We have over 11,500 members today. And all we do to this group is educate them every time we see an engineer do something in an interview that keeps them from getting hired. Sometimes it's things as simple as, you don't have a pretty background where you work from, put up a virtual background so it's not distracting. Sometimes it's things that we're educating them saying, look, when English is your second language and you get nervous, what do people have a tendency to do? Talk real fast, try to rush through it and move on. Or like, don't do that. You are software engineers. People are trying to test your ability to critical think and how you'll solve problems. So we teach them you take a deep breath, you even ask for 15 seconds to gather your thoughts and then answer. So every little nuance we've seen of why we've seen engineers not be hired, we educate this community, and that's how it's grown. We don't sell to that community. All we do is educate them. And that's been a key part of how we find and then how we vet engineers.
Oh, that's fabulous. That's fabulous. Steve, this has been marvelous. If you woke up tomorrow morning and somebody handed you a cup of coffee, a magic wand, and gave you two wishes that you could change how people perceive nearshore sourcing, what would those two things be and why?
I love it. And that's a great question. And I would say in 2020, hardly anybody in the who does software really knew of nearshoring. It was always of us educating them. And as we started going through 2023, we've seen much more awareness around it. Within the nearshore resources, they are more expensive than offshore. And I'm always educating clients on this, where you may be able to get a senior engineer in India for $40 an hour. A senior engineer in Latin America is going to be closer to 70 to 75 an hour. Still a lot less than the $150 an hour plus in the US, but we always are educating our clients and the community out there of the value of the real-time collaboration, how you have to look at productivity versus cost per hour. I will often see that CFOs, if the CTO fails at delivering software, the CFO doesn't always understand. They tell them, no, you have to use the cheaper resources. And if you can't get the same output, that's because you don't know what you're doing. Which, you got to love CFOs. They're doing what they think is best for the company. But until you've screwed this up, and I will tell you, I don't think I have one client that hasn't been burned by working offshore, which is the reason they're willing to pay more to work with Nearshore for that same time zone collaboration. And so if I could wave a magic wand, is that everybody would understand the pros and the cons, everybody from not just the technical leaders, but the financial leaders as well, and the business leaders. That would be my magic wand.
Well, that's one. Is that one and two, or is that just one?
What would be another one? I have to laugh, but many out there have differing opinions of how artificial intelligence will change or replace the need for software developers. And I am a huge fan of AI. I think the advancements over the past 2 years have been incredible. And what we're going to see forward is just going to be mind-blowing. I am convinced that in my lifetime, AI will not replace software engineers. It'll just be a tool to help them be more productive.
Yeah, I've had a couple of people on the show that make that basic argument also, that there is data that would suggest that a programmer, developer, that can be even broader, it can be with some form of AI help, can be up to 50% more productive. But I don't know about you. I don't know that I've ever seen an organization that didn't have a backlog of things that they wanted done that wasn't 3 or 4 times as long as it ever should be. And therefore, you get 50% more productive. You might get more of it done, but you're never going to eat that thing up.
I agree wholeheartedly. One of the things I'm always cautioning companies out is AI is a great tool for helping productivity, even analyzing code, but you have to be very careful of the models you're using. You don't want to just put that in open ChatGPT, for example, because now your code is available to the world. And so I'm always warning people, you do not upload all your code into a public large language model that is doing generative AI, and making sure they understand that and how you do use it if you don't have a private secure backbone to do that, because you could be putting your entire code base out to the world.
It is amazing that people haven't done the nuts and bolts research to understand that if they're going to really do that kind of stuff, they need to train their own model. How can people continue the conversation?
I would be honored to talk anything software development, tech, or entrepreneurship with anybody. The website for my company is www.sonatafy.com, and that's SONATAFY.com.
We'll also have that in the show notes, obviously. Again, marvelous. This has been really interesting. Thank you. As a thank you, the platform's yours. 2 to 3 minutes. You can promote anything you like. Now, I will say that if you're going to sell your car on eBay, this is probably not the place to do it. It's been, we've been doing this for 18 years. You don't want calls 18 years from now.
Well, Tom, let me first say thank you. Excellent questions. You have such a admirable podcast that you do. I'm honored to be on it. As far as what I want to say to your listeners out there is that custom software development is complex. You need to make sure you could find a partner that you can trust. And certainly my company, we are trusted by companies from startups through Fortune 500 companies. We've been on the Inc. 5000 fastest growing list. I also write for Forbes and Entrepreneur magazine on the topics of leadership, software development, technology. I've been published over 160 times on those platforms and continue to do it every month. I would love to have a conversation with anyone out there. Even if my company is not the right fit, I'm happy to educate you on the industry, what's out there, the pros and cons of doing it onshore versus offshore versus nearshore. And at the end of the day, if I can educate you and help you in your journey, whether it's through my company or not, I would be honored.
Steve Taplin, thank you for spending time with the Software Process and Measurement Cast listeners.
It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate it, Tom.
In Reread Saturday News, this week we put the bow on our reread of Actionable Agile Metrics Volume 2, Advanced Topics and Predictability, with a few final thoughts. This book has earned a place on my useful bookshelf. That's high praise. The quote from last week sums up my rationale for Reread Saturday. We take action because of our relentless pursuit of improvement. This is what professionalism is all about. Next week, we begin our reread of Deep Work, Rules for Focused Success in a Distracted World by Cal Newport. Buy a copy, read along. Links in the show notes to this week's installment of Reread Saturday and the previous 13 in the Actionable Agile Volume 2 series. In the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 799, we will feature an essay on why all communication is not, and I stress the not, collaboration. Like all trendy words, we are confusing the meaning and in the process losing the value of the act. One final thought before next week. Just because you allow time for Q&A, a talk at an all-hands meeting is not collaboration, even if you say it is. We'll also have a visit from John M. Quigley, who will bring his Alpha and Omega product development column to the cast. By the way, a little foreshadowing. Spamcast 800 will feature Johanna Rothman, Jeremy Willits, and myself. If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet?